As oldest retailer nears the end of Bay Days.
That can lead to ultimate shutdowns. A sad day ultimately for the employees.
Revealing the stores to be saved and when the big sell-off will begin.
They're very tough traders. The expression I use is some people don't have the cards.
Mark Carney braces to compete against a stacked deck.
The airport in Heathrow had an incident and we were turning back to Calgary.
A fire near Europe's busiest airport ignites widespread travel chaos.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
After a week of uncertainty, Hudson's Bay has found a partial lifeline to keep 6 of its stores open and liquidate the rest starting on Monday. Canada's oldest company getting the green light for the plan today from an Ontario judge. CTV's Sean Leithong is in Toronto with the details on which stores will stay open and what this means for thousands of employees. Sean.
Well, this isn't the end of Hudson's Bay, Heather, but inside court today, the over 400-year-old company was put on the brink. A Canadian icon, the oldest company in North America, Hudson's Bay will be reduced to just 6 stores.
In my opinion, I think it's a terrible day. It's a terrible day for the Bay, a terrible day for the employees. We're getting calls that they're very upset and distressed about their futures. I think it's a bad day for Canada, frankly.
In Ontario Superior Court this afternoon, Judge Peter Osborne giving the order that the Bay can start liquidating 87 stores on Monday. Only 6 stores will remain open, 2 in Toronto, including the flagship at Yonge and Queen Streets, 1 in Richmond Hill, along with locations in downtown Montreal, Laval, and Pointe-Claire, Quebec. Justice Osborne saying, "This is the art of the possible, and we are where we are today," adding, "There is no alternative than to approve the liquidation today to maximize success." HBC filed for creditor protection on March 7th and had been seeking the court's approval to start liquidation. Lawyers representing stakeholders had been working with those representing HBC on an agreement to move forward with liquidation. Word of a possible liquidation has sent shoppers flocking to Bay stores, leaving many shelves empty. Lawyers today saying that temporary boost in sales is what has allowed HBC to protect 6 stores for now.
I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but we didn't hear encouraging comments from company counsel. There's no plan for those stores. They have a very short time window.
Andrew Hatney represents the 9,400 HBC employees and retirees. He expects mass layoffs without a financial safety net to come with liquidation.
We've heard currently that HBC will not be providing severance.
Liquidation will take place at 74 Bay stores along with 3 Saks Fifth Avenue and 10 Saks off 5th stores, meaning not only will all items be sold, once they are bare, the shelves will go too. Along with liquidation, the judge also approved a process where HBC can sell any leases they're currently holding. Also, they approved a process for selling the company if a bidder comes along. Liquidation will be complete by June 15th. Heather?
All right, Sean, thank you. Days before he's expected to call an election, Prime Minister Mark Carney is hosting a meeting with Canada's premiers in Ottawa today, where they are talking trade.
You know, we can give ourselves, as Canadians, much more than anyone else can take away. And we can do that by working together. And that's what today's agenda is about. It's about catalyzing investment. It's about ensuring that Canadian workers can work anywhere in this country as they wish. And it's about goods moving across.
For more on this, we'll turn to CTV's Jeremy Sharon, who is live this evening at the Canadian War Museum. Jeremy, interprovincial trade and tariffs are on the agenda. What can you tell us about the meeting so far?
Absolutely, Heather. That will be the focus of today's meetings as the premiers gather to meet with new Prime Minister Mark Carney. Of course, all the premiers have their own issues. The people of their provinces are facing threats and having to deal with the impacts of tariffs that are impacting each province differently. But what we've heard as premiers made their way in here today is a united front when it comes to eliminating interprovincial trade barriers, working together to ensure that Canada can prioritize its own economy and ensure that we're not so vulnerable down the road to a trade war like this with the U.S. Premier Doug Ford, the chair of the Council of Federations, addressed questions as he came into this meeting. He had a clear message about what he would like to see. Here's more from Premier Doug Ford.
Do we need the support overall as a federal government? Yes, but get out of our way, you know, and let us start moving. Because if we don't, we're going to fall much further behind. And The other message is we need a united Canada. That's absolutely critical. You know, President Trump doesn't respect weakness. He respects strength, and that's what we need to do. We need to unite, move forward.
Now, the last time the premiers gathered was March 14th. They met then with former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. This is the first time for many of them meeting with new Prime Minister Mark Carney. And so we'll also look for updates. Last time they pledged to, eliminate some of those trade barriers when it came to moving goods, but also for professionals to be able to work in different provinces. We'll look to see what kind of progress has been made following that March 14th meeting. And of course, Heather, the big elephant in the room here is we're just days away from an election. So this is also an opportunity for Mark Carney to speak to premiers who he could be, if he wins this election, this next federal election, working closely with just a month from now or so.
So many things happening all at once. A time in history. Jeremy, thank you. And you can watch our special coverage of the election call on Sunday, hosted by chief anchor and senior editor Omar Sachedina and CTV News chief political correspondent Vasya Kapellos. You can watch it on CTV News channel and ctvnews.ca. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced he is reversing the Trudeau government's changes to the capital gains tax.
We need builders, and it's part of the reason why earlier today we've brought back the level of the capital gains tax so that those who take those risks get the rewards from those risks that are there.
Carney is scrapping the hike that was first announced in last year's federal budget and would have affected anyone reporting more than $250,000 in capital gains. That drew sharp criticism from some small businesses and cottage owners concerned they would be impacted. Donald Trump spoke about trade tensions with Canada today and appeared to take credit for shifting the political landscape ahead of the Canadian election. Take a listen.
Just a little while ago, before I got involved and totally changed the election, which I don't care about, probably it's to our advantage, actually. They're very tough traders, too. I want to just tell you, of all the people, they're tough traders. They trade very tough. And, the expression I use is some people don't have the cards.
On social media, Trump called April 2nd Liberation Day. That's when the U.S. levels a global tariff on trading partners, including Canada. In a move to motivate American neighbors to speak out, Canada is launching an anti-tariff campaign south of the border, putting up billboards in 12 so-called red states.
Send the message that you don't want these tariffs because nobody will win in this approach coming out from the White House.
Speaking with CNN today, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says Canada has a message for Americans, alerting them to how they'll be negatively impacted by the growing trade war. An historic symbol of cooperation between the U.S. and Canada may have fallen victim to sour economic and political relations. U.S. authorities have denied Canadian access to a library in Vermont that sits on the border with Quebec. CTV's Kelly Gregg checks out the reaction.
It's nothing more than tape on the ground, but this line representing the Canada-U.S. border is at the center of an international dispute.
It's very emotional. I never thought, there's a lot of things these days that we never thought we would see. That's one of them.
The site is about 150 kilometers southeast of Montreal. On one side is Derby Line, Vermont. The other, Stansted, Quebec. And in the middle sits the library. To get in the front entrance, Canadians need to walk into the U.S. Starting Monday, that will be restricted to only those with library cards. And as of October, not at all. Drawing ire from both sides of the border, including from American Chris Bless and Canadian Pauline Lucier.
This is our life. We walk in and we're friends.
We never thought about it.
No.
Are you from U.S.? No, never.
And despite increases in tensions over the border, residents denounce the move.
Canada has been a staunch ally of the United States for many years. They do not deserve to be treated this way. They do not deserve the tariffs. They do not deserve to be dismissed.
I'm upset. I've been coming to this library for almost 70 years.
The library was built in 1904 and it's listed as a heritage site in both Canada and the U.S. Its official address is in the United States, but the majority of the building is in Canada.
And in the time I've taken to tell you that, I've actually been in both countries.
The back entrance will have to be renovated to allow Canadians to enter. U.S. Customs and Border Protection told CTV News this area has witnessed a continued rise in illicit cross-border activity. In keeping with the CBP's goal of 100% border security, the following phased approach will be enacted to ensure that all persons entering the United States are admissible.
I was disappointed that we had to get to this point in our relationship. We thought we had solved some of the issues, the concerns that the Border Patrol had, but apparently not.
Two towns now coming together over a library divided by politics. Kelly Gregg, CTV News, Stansted.
Some flights have resumed at London's Heathrow Airport after a nearby fire shut down the busiest runways in Europe. CTV's Adrian Gabriel is at Pearson for us this evening. Adrian, this is causing quite the delays.
Heather, questions are now being asked. How could a fire at a single power substation bring Europe's busiest airport to its knees and result in cancellations here in Canada and around the world?
A ball of fire shoots through the night sky nearby London's Heathrow Airport.
Just saw absolute chaos, really.
The blaze that broke out at 11 p.m. Thursday night sent fire crews scrambling as thousands of area homes went dark, including Heathrow's Terminal 2 and 4, resulting in a full ground stoppage for the entire airport.
The fire involved a transformer comprising of 25,000 litres of cooling oil fully alight. This created a major hazard due to the still live high voltage equipment.
This flight radar tracker shows the moment pilots high in the sky were alerted of the abrupt halt to all air traffic at Heathrow. Some flights, including 6 Air Canada planes, had to turn around and return to their place of departure, affecting a total of at least 1,300 flights across the globe.
I thought it was not true. I thought, oh, there might be, maybe some part of the airport is shut.
Markham area resident Itala Ali, her husband and teenage son were on a layover in London after enjoying March break in Portugal when they quickly realized something was wrong.
So we were having dinner and then the electricity, the power went out.
With their luggage already checked in, the family were left to scramble to book a new flight home, where Ali's 5-year-old daughter, who stayed back in Canada, is waiting for her mother and family.
I don't have the heart to tell her that she's not going to see me for another 3 days.
The Alis did manage to rebook tickets for this Sunday, though many others haven't been as fortunate, with some passengers reporting delays of up to 5 days.
Heathrow says they aim to return to full capacity by tomorrow. And while foul play isn't suspected, counter-terrorism officers are now leading this investigation to try and figure out how this fire started. Heather?
Adrian, thank you. A Ukrainian city was hit by a massive Russian attack days before peace talks are set to resume. Ukraine's emergency services released this video showing parts of the southern port city Odessa engulfed in flames after a large-scale drone attack. The two sides have exchanged aerial assaults even after the Kremlin agreed to halt strikes on infrastructure targets earlier this week. The Sudanese army has retaken control of the presidential palace in the country's capital from a rival armed group after 2 years of fighting. The conflict has taken a major toll on civilians, with 12 million forced from their homes and millions facing famine. Coming up, a world exclusive.
And there's nothing nefarious about how we operate, and it generates profound positive results in people's lives, and it doesn't harm anyone.
Accusations of sex, lies, and manipulation. Alleged cult leaders speak out. Plus, marking an important milestone for accessibility and disability inclusion. In a world exclusive, a controversial Canadian spiritual guru and her husband break their silence in the wake of shocking allegations of coercion, control, and manipulation. Jeff and Shalia Devine face W5's Avery Haynes to deny claims from former followers that they are cult leaders.
I mean, the words that have been used to describe you: narcissistic, coercive, bully.
Not true.
Cult leader.
Yeah, not true.
And that you have destroyed people's lives.
Not true. Not true at all.
the image that's been put out there about me, it's not true.
And there's nothing nefarious about how we operate, and it generates profound positive results in people's lives, and it doesn't harm anyone.
And W5's Avery Haynes joins me now. Avery, how did they respond to these allegations that they force strangers into relationships, even convincing people to change their genders?
Right, the allegations are so bizarre and go so deep, but he claims that this is his hate squad speaking out against him, the former followers who I spoke to, that he's a victim of cancel culture, and that the reason why they have had this experience of believing that this is a cult is because they got out of the religion, the organization, too soon, that they didn't finish healing their upsets.
Avery, the entire story in itself is shocking for many to hear, but did anything really surprise you when you were interviewing them?
I was surprised because they're trying to reframe their reputation. They're trying to save their reputation. I was surprised in this interview, and it was very lengthy. We're putting an extended version up on YouTube because it's interesting to watch the deflection, the breakdowns, the explanations. And I was surprised that he didn't have any contrition, that there wasn't any explanation. It was more just straight denial, because these are horrifying allegations against them both.
Right. So just quickly, why do you think they agreed to the interview?
His ex-followers will say it's because he's a narcissist and he believes that he can change people's minds. He's apparently believes that he can brainwash people and control them in conversations. So there's an interesting, I was warned, he does this thing where he just will stare at you and not answer, and if you speak, it's his sign of power and he knows that he's got you. So there was an element of these things going on in the interview. I'm the master of that in interviews, so it doesn't work on me. but you know, his detractors will say it's because he believes that he is so powerful. This began as a business. They believe that it's morphed into, he believes he's God, and he believes that he has a control and a power and a direct link.
An incredible story and an incredible interview for you to do, so I look forward to seeing the full episode. We've been seeing little bits all week, of course, but you can catch the entire episode. It's more than an episode. You can catch Avery's 2-hour special called We're Not a Cult Inside Twin Flames Universe. That is tomorrow at 7 p.m. on CTV. Still to come on the show, will there be swift justice? The new charges against an alleged ticket scammer. Police in Ontario have arrested 2 people for allegedly scamming Taylor Swift fans out of $140,000.
I wanted to go there so badly.
One of the alleged victims spoke with CTV News earlier this year. Police say there were more than 50 incidents where people allegedly bought fraudulent or undelivered tickets for Swift's Toronto shows. Investigators say they were purchased from a Denise Blackhawk on Facebook. Denise Tesor and David Blake from Burlington are facing several charges in Halton Region. They were also charged earlier this year by Toronto police. A U.S. judge has ruled Mariah Carey did not illegally copy elements of her 1994 track, All I Want for Christmas Is You. The writers of a 1989 song by the same name filed a copyright suit, but the court found the songs were not similar enough for a jury to support that conclusion. The plaintiffs were ordered to pay part of Carey's attorney fees.
It's Raul Jimenez! What a strike from Raul Jimenez!
Disappointment for Canada's men's soccer team, losing to Mexico 2-0 in the CONCACAF League of Nations semi-final. They will play the U.S. for third on Sunday.
Played through and driven in! Thierry Henry, part of the celebrations, would you believe that?
Panama pulled off an upset, defeating the U.S. and will face Mexico in the final. After the break, celebrating 40 years since a nation was inspired. How the remarkable milestone has never been matched. An iconic Canadian is marking the anniversary of a global achievement that may never be matched. 40 years ago today, Rick Hansen kicked off his 2-year Man in Motion tour, raising millions and inspiring millions to reconsider what's possible. CTV's Andrew Johnson spoke with Hansen where it all began.
50,000 people came to the Dome Stadium to thank Rick Hansen.
Before the hero's welcome home, before he scaled incredible physical and mental heights.
Anyone can reach for and realize their dreams in life, whether they have handicaps or not.
And before the song. In March 1985, Rick Hansen's Man in Motion tour started in Vancouver with a smash.
We're going to wheel around the world. Let's catch up to Rick. Crash. Oh, man. Like, you know, right on television.
40 years later, Hansen still shakes his head thinking of early tour mishaps, struggling to spread the word in the pre-internet era, and how much he wanted to give up only 2 days in.
Cold rain, wind, and I was struggling like just to finish the day. I had tendonitis on my wrists and my elbows and shoulders. I had ice packs on them, and I just thought about quitting.
Instead, he kept moving, driven to prove what someone in a wheelchair could pull off in a time when people with disabilities were considered a burden or an embarrassment.
If you don't try, then you'll never know. Some of the biggest dreams in the world are killed by fear of failure or by skepticism or self-doubt.
Hansen's dream played out in 34 countries over an incredibly grueling 26 months in front of curious crowds who became believers.
Everyone has a hero and he's mine.
The tour raised $26 million. Today, the Rick Hansen Foundation continues to remove barriers, change attitudes, and fund research. Hansen is optimistic one day a wheelchair will only be found in a museum. And Hansen is grateful Canadians still tell him they're moved by the spirit of his original dream.
It's a privilege. As someone who wanted to be a teacher, that was my dream before I got distracted on the Man in Motion tour, to help people on their journeys. I'm honored. It's been a great life, and looking back 40 years ago, wow, that changed everything.
A 27-year-old who dared to make history and 4 decades on remains a Canadian hero. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
An incredible legacy. That is our newscast for this Friday. Thank you for joining us. I will be back with CTV National News tonight at 11. I hope you'll tune in. I'm Heather Butts. Your local CTV News starts right now.